Welcome to this Jeremy Bamber and White House Farm podcast. I am Yvonne Hartley, co-administrator and forensic liaison manager of the Jeremy Bamber Innocence Campaign. Each month, we hold Zoom meetings for members of our Facebook group, the Jeremy Bamber Justice Group. At these meetings, we make a presentation regarding one area of the evidence, the legal aspects of the case, or one of the characters linked with the case. We also have guest speakers each month and legal updates, as well as a question and answer session. Our speaker in September this year was Michael O'Brien, himself a victim of his own miscarriage of justice. Michael spoke with passion about his own case, his life in jail, meeting Jeremy within the jail, and highlighted just how difficult life is going to be for Jeremy once he is a free man. We pick up the meeting as campaign team member Philip Walker introduces Michael O'Brien.
Now we're very pleased to be joined by our distinguished patron, Mike O'Brien, who, as you probably know, was a victim of his own miscarriage of justice in the notorious Cardiff newsagent 3 case from 1998. He spent 11 years in prison as a result of this wrongful conviction, which was caused by a flawed and malicious investigation by South Wales Police. So he's going to tell you about his case and the challenges that he's faced since his release, and he'll also reflect on the time he spent in jail with Jeremy. So apologies for the delay, but over to you, Mike.
First of all, I'd like to offer my apologies because I'm a bit late tonight. I did have a few technical issues. I'm not very technical savvy on the computer, so I do apologise for being late. But I do want to say, I've done 11 years for the murder of a Cardiff newsagent based on the evidence of an ex-police officer and a number of witnesses who give evidence to the police who were in serious trouble with the police for criminal offences, and they built their case around my co-accused Darren Hall, who was a Walter Mitty character who had a habit of confessing to things that he hadn't done previously, which was not disclosed to us at the time of our trial. So basically, we done 11 years until it all come out. Now, the officer involved was investigated, and he was involved in numerous cases where he just had a pen and paper and he alleges a confession happened outside the cells. It was an incriminating confession, implicating us in the murder. Now, I've had some experts who recently look at this, and they've come to the conclusion. It's coming out in my new book now, which is out in September, called Miscarriages of Justices from 1982 to 2016 in South Wales. And what I've done, I've got the expert reports put in there to show that the confession outside the cells was actually false by a leading expert from Liverpool. Now, this is new evidence which has never been shown to the public or anything, not even at my civil trial. So this is going to be very significant when the book comes out, because I'm still trying to get the police officer, this particular police officer, held to account. Now, when I was in prison, I was in Long Lartin prison for a number of years. I was there for 7 years. And this is where I come about with Jeremy. And I remember being on the same landing. I think he was D-Wing, if I remember right. I'm sure Jeremy would correct me if I was wrong, in due course. But I think he was on D-Wing where I met him. And he stood up like a sore thumb because he reminded me of myself. All he wanted to talk about was his case and the fact that he was wrongly convicted. And so that immediately got my senses going, and there was the Birmingham 6 there, the Guildford 4 was there, and we all sort of used to try and get on together and help each other. And that's how it was when we first went into Long Lartin prison. I mean, I want to say this, it's the top security prison in the country, and I seen all the paper cuttings about Jeremy. I seen all they demonized him, they did. And, I didn't know how to approach Jeremy, first of all, because I didn't know him, So when he first came on to D-Wing, I was like, so that's the gentleman they've been talking about. Now, I know the media lie. I was under no illusions because of my own case. So we did get talking, and we were talking. I can remember we were talking about the silencer at the time, and he was showing me documents and everything. He was quite open and honest with me, and I just knew from that moment that I had a gut instinct something wasn't right with his case. And I don't know how you know somebody is innocent, but to give you an indication, Peter Fell I was in prison with, had done 17 years, got his name cleared. I knew he was innocent. The Birmingham Six, there was a guy called George Long who'd done 14 years. I said he was innocent. He got his name cleared. So my gut instinct was near enough spot on, because most of the people I was in Long Lartin with have had their name cleared. So that gives you an indication of how good my instinct was. Now, I knew Jeremy was innocent, and, you know, it was really sad to see when, you know, the papers were demonising him, and I seen all the bad headlines, and I thought, this is not the Jeremy that I know, you know? And that used to really get to me, because, you know, if only people knew what he was actually like, they would know that he couldn't have done this. He's just not that type of person, in my view. And I said to him, one day I'm going to get out. Do you know what I mean? And whoever gets out first, do you know what I mean? I will try and support whoever, all the miscarriages of justices. And that's when I did get out. I mentioned Jeremy in my book, Prisons Exposed, only briefly, about people who were given full life sentences. And I argued that that shouldn't be happening. And I mentioned Jeremy's case briefly in there. But then I was approached by a documentary, a couple of documentaries in 2003 and a couple of others. And I exercised my views on Jeremy's case. And I know I did upset him on one occasion, because the way it come across in the programme, I'll tell you the exact words I used. I said, Jeremy might not be everybody's cup of tea. And I didn't mean that in a bad way. I just mean, because he's a confident person, sometimes that can be misconstrued as arrogance. And that was where Jeremy wrote to me saying, oh, you said this and said that. I said, Jeremy, I was the only one who was speaking up in the programme. They were all against this when they were. The whole people in the programme were just nasty, horrible people. And it was in 2003 this documentary was made. And I said, he might not be everybody's cup of tea, but if you ask me, is he innocent? Absolutely. And that was the words. And then me and Jerry, we started corresponding more since I come out. I'm not the best letter writer, I got to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Because I used to write 80 letters a week. And I think after you've done that for 11 years, you get it's a bit tiring, you know, and I find it really difficult to do that. But what I did do, every opportunity I had, I mentioned Jeremy's case. I've gone on the Richie Allen show. I've done the Radio Essex with James Whale. I even took the T-shirt to Armenia, and they were talking about Jeremy Bamber on the Armenian TV shows I went on, because the government paid for me to go over there on the Blue Horizon, talking about to the government over there about miscarriages of justices. So we were on all the top shows, which are like the equivalent to ours, and I wore the T-shirt, and I got photographs of me in Armenia, and the host is actually talking about Jeremy Bamber, and I thought that was wonderful, because we're spreading the message. And that's what I've been trying to do since I've been out, and since me and Jeremy got back in contact, because I knew he was innocent, 100%. And funnily enough, my sister asked me a question the other day. She said, Mike, the Jeremy Bamber case, she said, do you really think he's innocent? I said, yes, absolutely. And I sat her down and I explained everything to her and what had gone on. And I think she was quite shocked. And yet she was the one who helped to get me out. But, you know, because of what's been in the newspapers and the way they've demonised him, I mean, it's just so wrong. You know, I haven't got time for like the Sun newspaper or the Daily Mail, because they never tell the truth. You get the truth from the Guardian, the Independent, and the Times. You get more on Jeremy's side. They'll listen to what you've got to say. But there's some papers who've been so nasty out there, so horrible, and this is not the Jeremy I know. I can honestly say to you, Jeremy is a friend, he's a decent guy, and he would not have done this crime. He could not have done this crime. And that is my own perspective. And, you know, I will shout to the rooftops, as I often have on radio stations and whatever. because I know he couldn't have done it. There's no way. Sheila was responsible for this. The police were on the right lines in the beginning. And why it changed into going for Jeremy beggars belief, because I've seen what Jeremy has put in front of me. I've seen the ballistic testing, and I'm going back in the early years. You know, I was in Long Lartin from 1989 to 1989 to 1997. And, you know, we've been on hunger strike together. You know, the first coordinated hunger strike was in 1992, where 20 prisoners went on hunger strike. Jeremy joined us, and we all stood together, and we refused our Christmas meals. And we refused our Christmas meals because we should have been with our families, and we should have been with the people we should have been with. And because we wasn't, we wanted to highlight our cases. And Jeremy stood by us each and every way he could. So when I come out, I wanted to give something back. And for the first few years, I got to be honest with you, I was really messed up. I didn't know what to do because I was so traumatized by my own experience, and I didn't get help. I come out in 1998. I didn't get no help for my post-traumatic stress disorder till 1998. So it took, not 1998, sorry, 2001, when I seen a guy called Adrian Grant. And when I started getting my head together, that's when I started campaigning for people. And that's when I started, you know, doing stuff for Jeremy and letting people know. And as far as I am concerned, he's going to win his appeal. He has to win his appeal because he's an innocent man. And I feel so strong right now that, you know, that Jeremy is going, this time, this is the real deal. And I will tell you this, I had a meeting with one of the commissioners about another case, and he worked on Jeremy's case. He doesn't work there anymore. And he said to me off the record, as soon as we got the opportunity, we're going to send this case back. I don't want to name him because I don't think it's fair. But he turned on to me, and this is a couple of years ago, and he said he should have won his appeal in 2002. Absolutely, he should have. But even now, there's more evidence now. There is no doubt whatsoever that he should get his name cleared. And all I can say is, you know, I'm going to be there when this all happens. And if there's anything I can do with the campaign, I mean, Yvonne, you know that if I can do anything, you've only got to give me a shout. I am a very, very busy man. I've got books coming out of my heroes at the moment, and I've got a TV documentary coming out very shortly about, I don't know if you heard of Di Morris's case. He died recently. Sad, very sad state of affairs. He was an innocent man, had done 22 years. So I'm involved in that case. So there's a Netflix going out about that. I've mentioned other people's cases where I can, and I'll do what I can. But I can say to everybody who's listening tonight, Jeremy Bamber is 100% innocent, and I do not care what the police say. There was no need for what they've done to that man. He has not been able to grieve properly. He's been done 2 injustices, 1 for the wrongful conviction, and 2, how was he supposed to grieve for his family? You know, how was he supposed to grieve properly for his family when he's trying to fight his conviction? He must have a mixture of emotions. And I will say this, when he comes out, he is going to have a lot of issues, like I did, suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, reliving the events, reliving what we've seen in prison. I mean, Jeremy was there when other inmates were there when they were killed by other inmates. I was in Long Lartin for 7 years, and I've seen 7 people killed. This is the reality of top security prisons. There's a lot of violence around you. And, you know, to survive each and every day is very, very difficult because you never know if you're going to be the next one. And this is how powerful prison is, you know, in a sense, like how dangerous it is, if that's the word I use. Because you're living on your wits each and every day. I can remember sometimes in the night times, I used to think, I can't wait to shut my door. I've seen so many stabbings today. I've seen so many people hurt. And I don't want to be part of this. And I used to just shut my door at 9 o'clock. And I used to feel a sigh of relief that that door was actually shut because I'd survived another day without getting hurt. And people don't understand that. This is the harsh realities of prisons. And when you're an innocent man, the cruelties of prison, that the prison officers mess around with your letters. money was going missing out of my private cash. Do you know what I mean? And they couldn't explain all this. It was all part of the harassment, because the more publicity I was getting for my case, the more they were getting irritated. And then they bring in petty rules then to stop you having this, that, and the other. So there's all these things Jeremy's got to cope with. And I got to take my hat off to Jeremy. And I said this to somebody the other night, you know, he's a remarkable man. 36 years, 11 years what I've done is nothing compared to what Jeremy's done, and what he's had to put up with what they've said in the media about him. I haven't had that level of intensity, and I mean, he's got to come out, and that's what I want to see. I want to see him walking down the Court of Appeal steps, saying to every one of those persons who doubted him, "Told you I was innocent," and that day, hopefully, is going to come soon. And let's just hope it's sooner rather than later, because justice delayed is justice denied.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you for talking so passionately about Jeremy's case, and as you said, reminding us what a violent environment he's currently in. So it's not just the injustice itself; it's the ongoing day-to-day challenges that he faces. So you made that point extremely well. So thank you for that.
No, you're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions for Mike, either on his personal experiences or his reminiscences about Jeremy? Yep,
Dominic.
Hi, Michael. I'm very keen to read some of your books, and I should first say thank you so much for your presentation. It was really inspiring, and thanks for all the work you're doing. It's fantastic.
Well, I don't know whether I can say I enjoy what I'm doing, but I get satisfaction in knowing that I'm trying to give something back to people who deserve it. And I mean, Jeremy deserves every bit of help he can get, and he needs it. You know, I mean, he's an amazing guy. What people have said about him in the media really upsets me. I don't talk about him much, and I wouldn't go to the media and say you're out of order. But when the time comes, when he gets his name cleared, some of them journalists, I'll be having a quiet word with, I can assure you of that. Because, you know, it's disgusting the way they can demonize somebody. And if you've seen Jeremy and you were in a visiting room with him, you'd be like, is this the same guy they're talking about? You'd think they got the psychiatric problems. You know what I mean? And they try and make out that Jeremy's got the psychiatric problems, but he hasn't got any at all. So, you know, who's got the issues here? It's the people who are demonizing it, who've got the, you know, the personality disorders and everything, really, because I know Jeremy and I will stick up for him, heaven and earth, you know, because I know 100% he didn't do it, like, you know, I really do.
Sure. Thank you.
As you said, Mike, you know, new challenges arise, you know, when you come out, and I know you found that adjustment quite difficult, didn't you? Can you just say a bit about, you know, your experiences, you know, immediately on your release?
Well, when I first come out, there was no help for me whatsoever. I mean, it wasn't until 2001 that the Miscarriages of Justice Support Service was set up by the government because of people like Paddy Hill and myself saying, we need help, we suffer from PTSD, who's gonna put us right? So, you know, fair play to the Miscarriage of Justice organisation in you know, Paddy Hill and his organisation. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have had any psychiatric help whatsoever. When I did have psychiatric help, I was off the Richter scale with post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, I witnessed a guy die in front of me. I mean, that traumatized me for a long time. His name was Norman Manning. I mean, you know, you can do your homework, you know, it's online. There's nothing that isn't in the media already. He was stabbed to death. And I tried to help him, because that's what you do as a human being. You try and save a life, not take a life. But when I seen this man and I pulled back the sheets, I seen him stabbed in the heart, lungs, groin. I knew he was going to die. I couldn't do nothing about it. That's the harsh reality. So I relive that even now. Sometimes, you know, I mean, I've been out 20 odd years now. You know, it's been 34 years since my wrongful conviction, you know, since I first went to prison. And I'm still getting psychiatric help now. I'm still on medication now. I'm on fluoxetine. I'm on 60 milligrams a day. I'm on anxiety tablets. I'm on a sleep apnea machine because of the damage. It's all done. You know, everything collectively is all linked to the miscarriage of justice. And you don't realise how ill you are until you get released. You think you're okay. You deal with the media, the euphoria, and there's all media around. You're doing interviews, and you're angry. You're telling them you're pleased to be out, but you're angry. You can feel, it's at the back of your throat, and everybody can see that you're angry because I wanted the police done, I wanted the prosecution done, I wanted everybody who would cause this miscarriage to be brought to book. But then after 6 months, when the media starts dying down and you start thinking about what has happened to you, that's when the problems start, because then the hatred starts coming into it, the bitterness. And I didn't get rid of the bitterness in 2012. So that's like, a long time after 14 years later, I managed to get rid of the bitterness. And it was a sad turn of events why I got rid of that bitterness, because I'd lost my son to a genetic disorder. I don't know whether many people know that, but I lost a son to a genetic disorder in 2012. It was hospital negligence as well. And I had two choices: go after the doctors and do the same thing as what I'm doing now, trying to go after the police and be bitter and angry, or set up a charity and do something positive. And from that moment on, I realised I had to change my way of thinking. So my son's death wasn't in vain, because he taught me something different. He taught me a different way, that this wasn't the right way to go about things. And it took me a lot to get rid of that bitterness, but I still suffered depression every day. Sometimes it's very difficult for me to just do normal basic things. When the depression comes, just having a wash or going in the bath or just doing everyday mundane things, going to the shop, are traumatic, because you think people are watching you. You get paranoid. And these are all the things Jeremy is going to have to face. I know we've got to get him out first, but I know all the leading experts on this stuff. And when it comes to it, we need to get him the very best help he can get. But because I've been through it, I can help Jeremy through it, because I know, when I come out, there was nothing. For 3 years, I was in the wilderness. I got to be honest with you, I was taking drugs. I had $100 grand check off the Home Office. I didn't know what to do with it. I've never had £2,000 in my hand. They said, here's a check, here's 100 grand, now go away. There's an interim payment. So I started partying with the boys, went out, taking cocaine, doing everything I shouldn't be doing, women, booze, a lot. Because that was my way of blotting out the pain. And then when I met somebody in 2001, Adrian Grounds, one of the leading experts, that's when I started getting myself together, because he helped me through it. But it took me a long time to get my head together. And bearing in mind, Jeremy's done 3 times the length what I've done. God knows what damage is done to him mentally. He seems well enough in prison, like we all do, because you're fighting. But once that fight stops, that's when you see what's left, the shell of the person. That's what we got to, this is what we got to, when the time comes, we got to get the right people in place to make sure he doesn't fall down the routes that I fell down, because I don't want to see that. And if I've got anything to do with it, there's no way I would see him go down the roads I went down. So, they're the things. And then adjusting to life, driving a car. I learned to drive a car since I've been out, I can tell you some stories. I've been crashed into the wall. I put my hands up in the air. I done some stupid things. I thought I'm never going to learn to drive, and I was suffering from PTSD. But I passed first time, so I don't know how the hell I managed to do that. But that's another story. I did pass first time. I still don't know how I passed first time. My reversing and parking is awful, but there we go. So I've managed to achieve a lot of good things as well. I want to say about the positive things I've done. I wrote 7 books. I got one on killing injustice in the Lone Star State, which is about the death penalty and why we shouldn't bring it back. Because people like me and Jeremy, we would have been gone. No doubt about it. Cardiff 3, Guildford 4. And I've analysed our system with the American system and showed how unjust the law of parties are and things like that. I've wrote my autobiography about where I grew up. You know, I come from a very poor background, totally different to Jeremy. You know, absolutely chalk and cheese. Do you know what I mean? We had no money. We were living on orange boxes and stuff like that, you know, to give you some idea. So 100 grand, when I give you this 100 grand check, it's like £1 million to me. That's why I done the things I did. But, you know, going back to the real issues now, like, you know, I just want to see Jeremy out now. He's done 36 years. He's probably the longest serving miscarriages of justice victim. I mean, probably the biggest miscarriage of justice victim. Let's just hope now the CCRC do the decent thing and end his nightmare. That's what we need to do. You know, I'm a survivor now. You know, I've got my son. I bring up my son on my own. He's 9 now. I couldn't have done that a few years ago because I was in such a mess. And I've got myself together now. And my focus is on helping the innocent. Whether it be Jeremy, whether it be Di Morris, whoever comes to me, I don't turn anybody away. I don't judge anybody. I just do what I got to do. And if I can highlight, if I can be a voice on the radio and explain somebody's case and why Jeremy's innocent, then I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. And I've been ridiculed. Make no mistake about it. People have ridiculed me. Oh, you support that Jeremy Bamber. Some of the comments on my videos, I had, oh, he's a car thieving Bamber supporter and stuff like that I've had to put up with. But you know what? They don't call me the Rhino for nothing because I'm very thick-skinned these days. And I've learned that through prison, you know? So, you know, I let it go off my head. But these are the things you've got to put up with when you're in the campaign like this. We've been called fruitcakes, haven't we, Yvonne? You know that. How many people have said to us, do you know what I mean, Phil? You know what I'm saying. People have said all sorts. But who's the fruitcakes? They are for not listening. And we're going to prove that Jeremy is innocent, and then we'll see who the nutters are. And it'll be those who were looking at us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that Jeremy will be very appreciative of your help and advice when he comes out, having been through that readjustment experience. I think it's a very unique experience, obviously, and having somebody who's dealt with that and then come out in such a positive way now, I'm sure will be invaluable for him.
Well, I don't want him to go down the same roads which I went down, you know, especially if they, say for instance, they give him an interim payment and stuff like that. The first thing he'd want to do, he'd want to go out because he's been locked up for so long. You're craving, believe me. And you see all the women, you're like, oh my God, there is a God. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. And that's how it was for me. It was like being in the desert, you know, going through the water, you know, seeing if I can find the water, and all of a sudden the water appears. Well, it's like when I come out of the car park at the Cartridge prison and see all these nice women and whatever, I was like, oh God, there is a God. Hallelujah. Do you know what I mean? I'm going out tonight, and as soon as I get some money, do you know, and that's what it was like. So, you know, Jeremy's only human. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He's going to want to go out there. He's going to want to see the world and do things. And he's going to see how much has changed.
Well, I think one story that to me highlights or epitomizes the cruelty of the system is I think I remember you telling me that when you got your compensation check, they deducted your bed and board for the 11 years, didn't they?
Yes, they did. It was £37,500. I fought it all the way to the House of Lords, me and Michael Hickey and Vincent Hickey. And Lords, I'm trying to think which Lord it was now. I know Lord Bingham. He turned around and said they could do it because we would have had to spend food and water on the outside anyway. Well, I said to the Sun newspaper, and I don't speak to the Sun newspaper normally, I was very flippant with them and said, oh, well, I would have had a few dolly birds in and a few steaks and a few bits and pieces. And I only went and printed it the next day in the paper and then it choked on my cornflakes, you know what I mean? But that's how stupid that newspaper is, which does my head in, you know. I call it the Daily Fail, one of them, the Mail, and the Sun, you know what I mean? Because it does, they tell lies about Jeremy. They don't tell the truth. I think that's the frustrating thing for me, you know what I mean, is when you've got to read about Jeremy, you're thinking, that's a load of nonsense, you know, and it's very hurtful, you know. I was lucky, I had most of the media on my side, but it took me 5 years before we got the media involved in our case, you know, so I was lucky in that sense. But I just can't wait for Jeremy to come out. There's so much I'd like to show him. Do you know what I mean? as an innocent man myself, I like to say, Jeremy, look at this, look at this, look at this. And I know he's going to be one, but I want to look at this, and I want to look at this. And look at that woman over there, look at her. Oh, yeah, hang on a minute. You know what I mean? It's going to be like that, like, you know what I mean? And that's the harsh realities of coming out when you get your name cleared and all the things, because you do think of women when you're in prison. You know, you're human. You know, you've been locked up with all these men for years, and you're like a caged animal. And when you come out, you're like, this is heaven. Nightclubs, oh my God. Do you know what I mean? So that's what it was like. And Jeremy's going to go through all these things, and we're all going to have to watch him do it. That's the thing about it.
Well, hopefully it'll be happening very soon. Tom, did you have a question for Mike? Tom?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask, Mike, this may sound like a facetious question, but I just mean it genuinely. Have you ever met a popular journalist, a tabloid journalist who has a conscience? Have you ever met one who's in effect a good journalist who's going about their work for the right reasons and is interested in truth? And also so I was also going to ask, do you have any ideas about how Jeremy could get more of the popular media on side with his case?
Well, let me answer your first question. Yep. I think going back to I'll answer your second question, because that's going to be easier about getting the media on side. I think you've got to be very picking and choosing what papers you go to. And fortunately, you're always going to have some mainstream papers who are going to believe whatever the police say to them. Because don't forget, that's where they get most of their articles from. That's where they make their money. And that's what it's about on the one side. I do know one journalist, I don't know whether he's still around anymore, a guy called Greg Swift. He used to write for the Express. And he was a good friend of mine. He came up to visit me, and he put, shame that South Wales Police were above the law. And he did a massive piece on me in the Express. And he's the only one I have ever known who's done a good article on miscarriages of justice, in the Express and places like that. Daily Mirror, they are pretty good. But the Daily Fail, as I call it, I don't know one journalist in there, honestly. And I know a lot of journalists from many newspapers. I know Eric Allison, he's done some splendid work over the years, for prisoners and for the innocent. But it's very, very difficult to get a decent journalist from the mainstream tabloids, because the tabloids have got this notion prisoners should be punished, prisoners are evil, they're having caviar and chips while the old lady's haven't got enough for Christmas meals. And this is their mindset, unfortunately. If they were shown the harsh realities and went into the prison and met people like Jeremy and met people like me, they'd soon change their attitude. I'd give them a week in prison and they wouldn't be writing the stuff that they're doing. But because they haven't seen that side of the coin, or don't want to see that side of the coin, you're always going to have the tabloids say bad things. But I hope once Jeremy has got his name cleared, those tabloids are going to have to retract, like they did in the Birmingham 6 case, my case, and many other cases, because it was the same journalist who criticised the Birmingham 6, who flogged them and sort of, flogging a dead horse, like saying they were guilty, they were scum, everything you can think of. But those same journalists, when they got out, wanted to interview Paddy Hill. Absolutely outrageous. I wouldn't give them the time of day. You know what I mean? I don't speak to the Sundays. Only once I did, when the flipping comment over the bed and board case, and that was it. That done it for me, And unfortunately, the only way we're going to get people on side now, we've got to clear his name. That's what we all got to focus on. Once his name is cleared, all these people who've been nasty towards Jeremy, I'll happily, with Jeremy, go and see them and see if they want to do a decent story. And they can pay him handsomely as well, because he's going to need money to live on. That's another issue as well, because they'll all be clamouring for his story and they'll all want a freebie. But I know through other high-profile cases, I'll give you an example. There was Kenny Ritchie. I don't know if you remember, he was on death row in America, the Scottish guy. Well, they were all fighting over his story when he got taken off death row and he got his name cleared and he come back to Britain and whatever. And the News of the World paid him 50 grand. And what I'm saying is, that's another aspect which nobody's looked at. When Jeremy comes out, where's he going to live? Where's the money going to come from? They're all other aspects. And use the media, take their money, but make sure you get that story out from his perspective. Because that's another angle nobody's looked at.
But the curious thing about it is that if they're interested in circulation and advertising and what have you, you'd think that at least some of them would be saying, hang on, we could, regardless of whether they think Jeremy is innocent or not, they're journalists at the end of the day, they could be saying to themselves, hang on, we could actually spin this into a big story. And we could present the evidence in such a way to make it look like Jeremy is innocent. Of course, we know Jeremy is innocent. But they could say to themselves, yeah, and we could turn this into a big scandal and be demanding answers and run a story and, you know, boost our circulation with headlines. I'm just asking myself why some of them don't do that.
Well, I'm disappointed, you know, as much as what you are. I know. I'll give you an example. Some of the headlines for me. My son wrote when I was shipped out, when I took the governor of Long Lartin to court and the Home Secretary, I nicked the both of them over denying me access to journalists. I was shipped 300 miles so I couldn't get visits from my family. And the headlines were, my son pleads to visit killer dad. And he sells newspapers. You were correct. I mean, you know, so everybody was going on, his son pleads to visit killer dad. Next one you know, the Wales on Sunday is all sold out and all that. Oh, we've got to have a look at this, what this is about. Article was fantastic. Headlines was disgusting, you know. So yes, they can do it if they want to. But I think the powers that be up there, once they got to be in their bonnet, and they've got to be in their bonnet about Jeremy, I think it's politics involved now. That's what worries me, is the politics involved in Jeremy. If you took away the politics and looked at the facts of the evidence, and you know what evidence he has got to prove he's innocent, he would have been cleared a long time ago. But I think politics is playing a part in what has kept Jeremy in prison so long.
Yeah, I was going to ask the lawyer this question about whether he thought the politics within the judiciary would stop him being released, irrespective of the evidence. Anyway, someone else may have a question. So,
going back to your case, Mike, did you ever receive an apology from South Wales Police?
Well, surprisingly, I had a letter. I got my MP Beth Winters to write to the Chief Constable of South Wales Police in 2020. I've been getting harassment from a woman called Stephanie Hall, whose boyfriend said he was innocent.
It's so that we get the same harassment.
And I had to get the police involved in everything, and I did. I said I was very reluctant, but she caused me so much distress, and what she was putting on websites about me was horrendous. So what I actually did then, I did get the police involved and stuff like that, and I've warned her recently because she's been doing it again. But I wanted an apology from the police, because I said it's down to South Wales Police for not apologising to me. People are still saying I'm guilty. And I've got a letter in my drawer. I've just shoved it in the knife and fork drawer, to be honest with you. It's in there. And basically he says, we accept that Mr. O'Brien is a victim of a miscarriage of justice. And whilst they stopped short of saying we apologise, they did accept that I was innocent. And that came through in 2020, and I did an ITV interview. Might still be on ITV thing now, but I'll have to get the letter, and I'll have to put that on Twitter and Facebook and show you what the Chief Constable said. And I couldn't believe it. I was so overwhelmed by it, because I thought, why didn't you do this years ago? Why have I had to wait 34 years? But it's better late than never. And his name's Matt Dukes, but he's now gone to the Met Police. Mind you, they do need him, I've got to be honest with you, because what's going on up there, they need to tidy up their act. But that's another matter, you know. But I've always got on with this Matt Dukes. He was always honest and forward with me. He always said, I can only do this, I can only do that. But he told me straight, and we had that little mutual respect. And when my MP wrote to him, I was so shocked to get that letter to say, you know, we accept Mr. O'Brien was a victim of a miscarriage of justice, and it shouldn't have happened. So that's the nearest I've got to an apology without them saying we're sorry. They never use those words, I'm sorry, but they accept it, if you know what I mean. That's the closest I'm going to get, I'm afraid. So I just took it with the grace it was meant, and moved on, like, you know. But I have got a nice book coming out in about South Wales Police, and I mean, they're not going to like it. So I think I'm going to go on holiday, like, you know, in September the 27th, because I think I can have my guts for garters, or try anyway, like, you know. I have to be very, very careful what I do.
Yeah.
You know.
But final question, Mike. Did anything, was there any help holding to account of any of the officers involved in your case?
Unfortunately, I tried to sue the CPS. I took them to the High Court, and Lord Thomas, who's retired now, who's the main Lord, basically said the evidence was good enough to get me cleared, but not strong enough to get him convicted, and they refused me my judicial review. So I did try to get him charged. They paid, what I want to say is they did pay me out the highest compensation ever for a miscarriage of justice because of their wrongdoing in there, but they didn't admit liability. They put in what they call a Part 36 offer, which stops all your evidence coming out in a civil trial. So what I've done, I've used that evidence from the civil trial, which has never been made public, and put it in my new book. So, do you know what I mean? So I've got two bites of the cherry, one way or another, it's coming out. You know, so I that was the only way I could do it. But, you know, they don't pay you £300,000 when the most they normally pay out is 50 grand. That is the top level. And Mark, it's a shame Mark's on you, because he'll tell you that. That's the most they give you. So if there was no corruption, why give somebody £300,000 then? That means that anybody can make false allegations against the police. Oh, we better give him £300,000 to shut him up. But they knew what they were doing. They stopped the evidence from coming out, see? And if Jeremy goes to sue the police when he comes out, he'll have that problem as well. We got to get rid of that Part 36.
But we've already got criminal complaints in about the police. We did that first, so we've like on that one. So, but it's like as well, I've said to Jeremy, they can try and gag him all they want. Fine, they can't gag me, can't gag Philip, they can't gag us, you know. So collectively, we will make sure that evidence gets out there. So, you know.
By the sound of it, Mike, they're not going to gag you either. So.
No,
well, no, they tried to run me over in my first book when I was at the book signing. I forgot to tell you about that. My wife was driving the car with my daughter in there, and I was just done a book signing at Lantryston. I was just coming back on the Merthyr Road, and they tried to push me into the Merthyr Road as I was coming on the roundabout. And I stopped the car in the middle. She stopped the car in the middle of the road, and I shook my fist at the police officer. I reported it and everything, but as you know, they never done anything. And the other thing is as well, when I was fighting the police, when I was taking them to court, 22 criminal offences were committed against me by criminals, right? Real criminals, and they did nothing. That's all in my book as well. And I've detailed all the criminal offences which were committed against me: harassment, assault, you name it, it's in the book. And I mean, I haven't pulled no punches. 22 criminal offences, and nobody was arrested.
So when's this out, Mike?
On the 27th of September, I'll happily send you a copy. I don't want you to buy it.
You can send me the link, Mike, and then we can put it on the Facebook group.
Yeah.
And then if you can send me the link for our people.
Yeah, like you're doing Siren in this. My book publisher is called Siren. You know, I can put it in an email and send it to you. But, you know, I'm not very good at promoting my books. I'd rather promote Jeremy. Do you know what I mean? That's me. I'll speak about Jeremy all day long because I just know.
Michael, you're going to have to slow down. I can't keep up with you. I can't read them fast enough.
Max also, and he even told you this, he also released songs.
Yes, forever.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I released an album. Yes, I released a charity single, which just scraped just outside the top 100 charts position. That's not bad for a 50-year-old fart, anyway. You know what I mean?
I don't think Justin Hayward's got anything to worry about.
Well, you know what happened to you? I never just
said Max song.
Forever Autumn. Yeah, I've done a few recordings recently. I just haven't had time to do anything with them, like, you know. But that's my fun time. That is just like getting away from everything, like, you know.
We've got something in common. I noticed my name's Thunderchild.
Oh.
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds, yeah. You know. Oh, I could tell you some stories about War of the Worlds, but I don't think it's for this episode. Like, you know? You know, oh yes, the things we used to get up to in prisons. If only they knew. You know what I mean?
You have to put it all in your next book, Mike.
Yeah, but the thing is, if the reason why I didn't put a lot of it in my book was because there's people still in there, and the thing is, they'll be onto them like Sonic, then, won't they? You know, all the little things you can get up to. That's the only reason. You know, when I see you guys face to face, I can tell you some funny stories and real true stories.
I know a few, and it's like
you'll be laughing your socks off.
Yeah, things Eric has told me and stuff, and it's just like hysterical. So I get one over on him.
Well, the drug situation and the hooch, I could tell you some stories about that, like, you know what I mean? But as I said, I'm not going to say no more. You know what I mean? I don't want to know all our secrets, like, you know, there's others behind it, you know. But yes, we've done some mad things in our time. The one I'll leave you with, because this is quite good, I got caught with a load of hooch once, and there was a bath there, and the prison officer said, you know, tip it out. It was on my birthday. So what I did, I put the plug in, poured it all out into the bath. As soon as the prison officers were gone, I showed them that I had empty containers. I got nicked for it. But as soon as they were gone, I was putting it back in the cans. We had a drink that night. We were having it. They were not going to spoil my birthday. But little things like this, you know, just to go one up on the screws, like, you know what I mean? And the little things you have to do to... and Jeremy's probably got 101 stories to tell you. I tell you, he'll keep you amused when he comes out. I'm telling you.
Good book. Good book.
Well, any final questions from Mike? It's been fascinating to hear all your stories. Has anybody else got a final question?
I've got one. Are you still angry? And can you forgive the people responsible for your wrongful imprisonment?
Yes, I have. I have forgiven them. I feel sorry for them, to be honest. I'll give you an example. I bumped into the copper who made up the confession outside the cells when I was doing a charity do once, and I was in Penarth, and this old guy was looking at me, and I thought, I know you. And I thought, that's Inspector Stuart Lewis. That's the one who made up the confession. And I said to him, shall I push you in the river by there? I started laughing. And my wife said to me, you can't say that to him. I said, well, I don't give a damn, like, you know, he said, that's the guy. And I looked at him and I thought, I said, you pathetic old man, you look at you. You're going to die soon, I said to him. So I said, the Lord will have you, so I'm not going to do nothing. And I said, I'll see you around, mate. Do you know what I mean? And I walked away from him, and do you know what? I felt so good because I never hit him. And I walked away and I thought, oh, my bitterness is gone. And I felt pity for him. He was an old man in one of those scooters, and I thought, you're pathetic. Do you know what I mean? And it took a lot of guts to walk away from him. I got to be honest with you, because my gut instinct, if that would have been when I first come out, I even found out where he lived when I first come out. I knew where he drank. I knew where the police officers drink. And believe me, I was going to do some damage. And my mates had to keep me on the even keel and keep me away from the, you know, the Beverly Hotel, like, you know what I mean? Because I knew where he was at a certain time. So I had all that bad feeling when I come out, but when I actually met him and seen how pathetic he was, I let it go. And I've let it go now. I feel sorry for the people who've done what they did to me, because for them to do that to me, they must have been in a terrible, terrible place themselves, like the witnesses who give false evidence against us. You know, the police have got to take responsibility for leaning on them and putting them in a position where they weren't going to see their kids unless they give a statement against me or Ellis. I mean, what would you do? What would a normal person do? If they said to you, you're never going to see your kids again unless you give a statement against Mr. O'Brien or whatever, and you were a vulnerable person, what would you do? So you've got to look from another perspective and look at it from their point of view, what they were thinking, and try and put yourself in their shoes. And I've forgiven them all. I mean, I've met quite a few of them, Christopher Chick and Helen Morris. They tried to put it right. They went on a TV program and admitted they framed us. Do you know what I mean? I took a lot of guts, that did, you know, to go on a TV program and say, yeah, I lied about Mr. O'Brien. I lied about Ellis Sherwood. And I've spoken to them, shaken hands with them. Not going to have a cup of tea with them in their house and all that, like, or whatever, and be best friends. But I've managed to sort of move on from all the bitterness. And, you know, you've got to do it, because if you don't, it'll destroy you. It's like a poison which goes through your veins. Do you know what I mean? and it's so bad. It was making me ill, but it took me 12 years, only 12 to 14 years before I got rid of that bitterness. I don't want Jeremy to do the same. I hope when we get him out, we get him the proper help, and maybe he'll be able to get rid of it before it festers. You know what I mean? And we can keep a lid on it. It's not like what I need, you know? So that's the answer to that. Like, yeah, I've forgiven all of them. Like, you know, it's the only way forward.
Exactly. You're remarkable, Mike.
You are.
Just amazing. What you do to help everybody is just incredible.
I'm just a normal guy from a council estate who's just managed to use prison wisely. I educated myself. I done what I could. I done what I could for many other people when I was in there as well. I'm still doing it 34 years later. I'm probably going to be an old man in a wheelchair going, the Pace Act, the Pace Act, do you know what I mean? And then you know, that confession is inadmissible, do you know what I mean? I might be 87 or something, but I'll be still banging on about the law, and I'll still be, you know, saying this is a miscarriage of justice and this is the reason why. Yeah, they'll have me in the wheelchair still doing it, or on the crutches or whatever, I don't care.
You and Jeremy next to each other in
Germany. Yeah, that's right. Remember in our day, Jeremy? Do you know what I mean? It was like that in our day, and remember that prison house we had as well? It was great. You know, so I'm gonna be here till the end of time, until my time comes. You know what I mean? Fighting, because that's what I do best. That's the only thing I know how to write books, and I just hope it makes a difference, because that's what it's all about. You know, I don't make much money from my books, I'll be honest with you, but it's not about that. It's about getting this story out there. And if the publishers want to keep publishing them, I don't care if they don't make no money. It's not my business. You know what I mean? As long as they let me print my books, and they make enough to sort of get by, I'm happy with that, because the stories are out there. Yeah. And that's what matters. And if a journalist picks up on that particular story and that person gets cleared, to me, that is priceless. You can't put a price on it.
Absolutely.
You know?
So I think Dave has a question.
Yeah, sure.
Dave?
Yeah, I was going to say, there isn't anyone else that's got out of jail after 36 years, is there, that I can think of?
Not out of jail.
Sorry, I haven't finished the question. So, okay. 36 years of being in horrific confinement must be, you know, incomprehensible for anyone.
Inhumane.
Yeah, that hasn't. So the support that he's going to need is going to be massive, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
I just wonder what support there will be, because it has to be done. You know, it's staring at me through the window. You know, he did not do this hideous crime.
Well, he would be referred to the Miscarriage of Justice Support Group. I don't know if you know that. I did mention it earlier. I might have got, you know, people might have got it mixed up with Mojo and the Miscarriage of Support Service. What they do is when people come out, when they get referred back to the Court of Appeal, they will go and see Jeremy and see what his needs are. So when it comes up to the appeal, and say, for instance, he got his name cleared tomorrow, they'll be at the gate with him and make sure he's not only that he's okay, but they will put him in touch with a psychiatrist who deals with post-traumatic stress disorder for victims of miscarriages of justice. And the leading guy is Adrian Ground from Cambridge University, who is a good friend of mine as well. So, you know, he will have the right help at the right time. You know, trust me, I'll make sure of it. You know what I mean? I know we're going to have to go through a media frenzy, and we're going to all have to be like this. Do you know what I mean? To get... he will have the help, because the help is there. That organisation is specifically there to help.
Yeah, there's a lot of organisations, and Jeremy's a huge advantage to a lot, because he's got such a big network of people who are there to help him. You know, like Mark, like Dennis, like, you know, and they're all experts in their own field, and we will make sure he's all right. He's fortunate in the fact he does have so many strong people around him to support him, and a lot of people don't have that. So, you know, I'm sure when Jeremy is released, and that will happen, that everybody will do their part, and he'll be all right.
we'll all pull together. That's what we'll do. You know, as I said on a radio program, I remember James Whale said, "Well, wouldn't you think that some of his family would stand by him?" I said, regardless of that, I said the fact is, when he comes out, we're his family.
That's right.
You know what I mean? We're his family now.
Yeah.
We're the ones who care for him. We will make sure he's okay, that he's got somewhere to live and whatever. You know what I mean? And he's got money and he's not without, you know, because the first thing he's going to notice, I tell you this, I thought this is quite funny, clothes. When I went into prison, I had state press. I don't know if you remember those back in the day. They were like little black flecks in black trousers, and they were all the rage, and they were like drain pipes. But when I come out, I went to go shopping with my brother, and all I seen was flares. And I said to him, I ain't fucking wearing them. You know what I mean? I mean, clothes shopping was, wow, it just blew my head. We went into Peacocks. I can remember we went into Peacocks and Marks and Spencer's. I wanted to go to Marks and Spencer's. He wanted to go to Peacock. I said, you tight bastard, you can give me a decent pair of jeans in there. Do you know what I mean? But shopping like that, you know, Jeremy's going to have to get used to all things like that. You know, and, you know, he's probably got his clothes in his box from 36 years ago, because I know when I come out, my clothes are still in the box when I come out. So I tried to put them on, I couldn't get them over my knees. You know what I mean? So, you know, obviously I put on a bit of weight and whatever. And the shirt, well, and the tie, well, I still got him in the house as mementos of when I was 20. And I was 6 stone 6 then, and now 16 stone 4. So you can understand why they don't fit, you know? So you can have all that, but I found it funny. Do you know what I mean? Because me and my brother, he said, but they're all the fashion now. I'm like, I ain't wearing that. The shirts were out here, so I'm not wearing that. I said, like a helicopter, I'm going to take off. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, there was some good fun when I come out, do you know what I mean, as well? Like, you know, as I said, shopping for clothes and shoes and, oh, God, it took me a long time to get up to speed and what was the fashion and what wasn't. And, you know, and Jeremy's going to have that fun as well. Like, you know, I think you'd see the funny side of it, you know, with Jeremy, like, you know what I mean? You know, I can see him going, I wore them in 19 so I ain't wearing them now.
He's already said he's not going in Primark, so.
We've got a good one in Huddersfield. It used to be C&I.
I remember C&A, yeah, as well. There was one done by us, they shut down, like, yeah, I remember C&A, yeah, you know.
Right, well, Mike, I think we're going to have to wrap it up there, because we've got a few other things on the agenda we need to get through.
And if any of you manage to speak to Jeremy, because I think you speak to Jeremy a lot, don't you, Yvonne?
Yeah, every day.
You know, you give him my regards and you tell him,
I will do.
never give up, no matter what. Say,
Oh, he won't give up.
No, never.
Never
No
will.
retreat, no surrender was our motto when we were in jail. And in Gaelic, it's called Diolch ala. Our day will come.
You can join our monthly Facebook meetings, which have a first look at case material, presentations, and guest speakers at our official Facebook, Jeremy Bamber Justice Group.